Can Sucrose be as good as Kazuha? I mean, C6 Sucrose must at least come close to C0 Kazuha, right? Well, yes and no. Let me explain. But before that, here are some ground rules. Both Kazuha and Sucrose are level 80 with level 9 talents on same 4-piece Viridescent Venerer set. With that out of the way, we can move on to the weapon section where Sucrose is the winner simply because the weapon options are better. Both Sucrose and Kazuha buffs are based on how much elemental mastery they have. With that in mind, let's compare the most used weapons. It's Xiphos Moonlight, Favonius and Sacrificial Sword for Kazuha and Sacrificial Fragments for Sucrose. Here the Sacrificial Fragments with its elemental mastery plus skill effect that lets you reset your skill cooldown is unmatched combination for Anemo EM scaling supports. In Kazuha's case you will have to choose between ER and EM, plus Sucrose can whip out the ultimate card in form of Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer, where the 48% attack buff at R5 from your skill effect is something that you are not able to match by any 3-star weapon. Let's compare the abilities, starting with the skill at C0. This one goes for Kazuha. It is really easy to use, have higher damage output, bigger AoE and lower cooldown. If you have Sucrose's first constellation, you gain 1 additional charge of your skill, which puts them roughly on the same level when it comes to damage output, but for the price of longer on-field time. And if you have Sucrose's 4th constellations, you can lower your skill cooldown by up to 7 seconds by doing some auto attacks on the field. But even with all those buffs, Kazuha is winner here just because his setup is way faster. Now, if we compare their bursts, it's the same thing. Kazuha have bigger AoE, higher damage output and longer duration at C0, but if you have C2 for your Sucrose, you gain 2 additional seconds for your burst duration, which makes them equal. Big difference between them is in how their bursts get infused with other elements. In Kazuha's case, the element just have to be present somewhere inside the burst's AoE. Doesn't matter if it's on the edge or run in the center. On the other hand, Sucrose must infuse the center part of her burst with the element, otherwise it won't work. This can be achieved by waiting for your enemy to be sucked into the center of the burst or infusing your character with element and walking into your burst. This is a huge problem in most cases, but it also opens the infusion selection mechanic. And for that I will have to explain how the Anemo infusion works. So welcome to the Anemo 101, today's lesson, Infusion Priority. In this lesson you will learn that in the eyes of Hoovers not all elements are equal and some of them have higher priority when it comes to getting infused with Anemo, and the order of priority is Pyro, Hydro, Electro and Cryo. This applies to all Anemo characters with the exception of Anemo MC. With this in mind, if we would use Kazuha's burst on enemies and there would be multiple elements present, it would be always infused in this order. But with Sucrose we can position our character in the way that the center of our burst lands on top of lower priority element and we would get the infusion we want, not the infusion with higher priority. Other mechanic that Sucrose is better at is double swirl, where she can perform the swirl of 2 elements without any preparation or abilities. When it comes to the team synergy, even though both of them buff your team using their EM, they buff your team in slightly different way, where Kazuha buffs your elemental damage and Sucrose buffs your reaction damage. We did a ton of testing on both on and off stream here on YouTube, and based on how they buff your team and how their kit works, Kazuha is more suited for mono and quick swap teams. Sucrose on the other hand is more suited for reaction based teams, plus due to her being catalyst user she can be played as on-field driver. Kazuha can be played as on-field driver as well, you just need his C6. And if you have his C6 you shouldn't be watching this video. So like and subscribe and go watch the video that's on the screen right now, because I bet you need all the mora you can get.